Hey, Cancer Warriors! It's Tanya with Power Pantaloons, and today we have Shelby. I'm gonna say it wrong. She corrected me. Chipelewski.
Yeah, that's right.
Awesome. Welcome to our show.
Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you.
You are welcome. Can you tell everybody what your zone of genius is?
I can indeed. So I teach fitness for longevity. I teach my clients how the physical affects the mental. And the main thing that we focus on is strength training and preventive maintenance, how to use our joints through the full range of motion, how to maintain ability through our entire body by adding movement to our life that we actually enjoy. And then also by nourishing our body with the food that we're putting in and the people that we're surrounding ourselves with. So it's not just strength and nutrition, it's mindset too, right? Knowing that our daily habits and the people and the energy that we surround ourselves with, it really matters. It really affects the entire being.
You are the sum of the five people you hang out with.
Totally. Yeah.
You really are. And you touched upon a couple of things that I absolutely want to go deep in. For me, mindset is the king, right? It is the
Yeah.
absolute top of the chain. And when I was diagnosed with cancer 17 years ago, I can't believe it was 17 years ago, right? Uh,
Wow. Yeah.
the one thing I did every day when I woke up is when I changed my underwear, I visualized that I was putting on Wonder Woman's underwear because to me,
Ooh.
Wonder Woman doesn't die. And I absolutely credit that one action with a large portion of how I survived my journey because we're going to get crazy here. So a healthy uterus is about 4 ounces. And when they took mine out, it was over 10 pounds. There was no cancer markers in my blood. They did all the pap smear, the ultrasound, the transvaginal ultrasound, all that stuff came back fine or inconclusive. They actually had to do a DNC to find my cancer. So I'm all about listening to your body, like when your body tells you things, you can hear it if you listen and just em- embracing all of the factors, right? Like, and I had to take accountability for my actions or inactions that led me to a spot where this could occur, right? Like,
Mm,
we have to
sure.
take accountability for it. Like, I'm not saying it was my fault, but I certainly made choices that led to the opportunity.
Okay. Tell me more about that because we before we hopped on, we talked about preventive, right? So what are some of those things that you know that maybe like some of the habits that you had that led to that?
So I have always been in a large body, and that has everything to do with the fact that I was assaulted the first time at the age of 5, and I ended up with gonorrhea.
Mm,
And I believe that that's actually how I ended up with the uterine cancer. And I've heard many people talk about their cancer. I couldn't speak for myself, and I ended up with throat cancer and stuff like that. So I built the armor of being a big person so I wouldn't be assaulted again. Did that work? No. But like in my head, like that was the protection that the 5-year-old me started. Like if you look at pictures of me before 5, I was a beanpole and then I started getting chunky. So the eating patterns and then you
mm,
know everybody wanting me to exercise and then exercise becoming a dirty word, and now we don't call it exercise because exercise still in my head is associated with punishment. We call it recreation. So
okay.
like it is about mindset. It is about making small incremental changes to get to a better place. I didn't address my actual food intake until seriously until 2 years ago, and it was with a lot of deep work with my inner child, coming to terms with my sexual assaults and getting to a place where it's okay in my head for me to be a slender person. And since that shift in my head, I have come down 70, 75 pounds. I have
Wow.
3x my stamina. Um, and we're working on the walking. I can't stand walking, but but if I'm in a fun place, right, I can do it. Like if we're on a hike and there's lots of visual, like, but you can't get me to walk around the block because it's cars and houses and I don't want to look at that. But if it's birds and leaves and flowers, we can do
Yeah.
that. So it really is about making choices, like, and small choices, because it was stopping the soda. And then a couple weeks later we went from dinner plates to lunch plates for all our meals, and then we went to just one pass. And then it's now I get starchy carbs like potatoes and white bread and that kind of nonsense twice a week maybe. And my meals are now 75% vegetables and like 25% proteins and fats. So it is, you pick a change and you do that one change till you're good at it, and then you pick another change, because the radical change, it doesn't work. Cold turkey doesn't
No.
work for anybody.
No, not for anyone. And I think this is something that's really important that you're talking on is like we have a relationship with food. It's not just like calories in, calories out, like diet culture makes it seem. Just don't eat this stuff or cut these certain foods out, all these things. And it creates more disordered eating patterns than it does any good, right? And so it sounds like you're like revolutionizing the way that you're even just viewing food as far as like, okay, what's nourishing my body? What's like adding to my cells and helping me thrive instead of taking away.
Yes, and I don't deprive myself of anything. If I want ice
Yes.
cream, I have it, but I don't
Yes.
have half a gallon of it. I have a little bowl. You only need 3 bites to satisfy the craving. Literally, just a few
Mhm.
bites, and I can at this point eat half a slice of cheesecake instead of a whole cheesecake. You
Yes,
know,
I trust
like,
me, I get it. Well, and the thing though, it sounds like the other thing that you're shifting is the mindset around the having those indulgences, right? Because the other side of that is diet culture is like you're bad if you eat these foods, and it's just not true, right? It's like you no foods are inherently bad. You're allowed to enjoy those things, and then you don't have to beat yourself up over it either.
I
That's
I
probably worse off.
I kind of think sugar might actually be inherently bad.
Well, and so is alcohol, and so is, there's tons of
Right,
things that people
right.
indulge in that it's like, yeah, but like to me, all things in moderation, right? Yes, it
Yeah.
does raise inflammatory markers. Yes, there's all kinds of studies on it, right? But to me, I teach 80-20 rule. It's like if you're mostly nourishing your body, which again, it sounds like that's what you're like walking towards, is like mostly putting really good foods in your body, you process things differently, right? And so
Oh my
it
God.
doesn't affect you the
Yes.
same.
Yes. So one of the things that ended up being a side effect to my radiation specifically is because,
Mm.
abdominal, uh immediately my body shifted to, you don't get the warning you used to get when you have to poop.
Okay.
And it has gone in cycles. Like sometimes I have a real hard time and I'm pooping my pants all the time. And then other times I will go months or even years without a poopsident. And
Poops it
well, I mean that's what it is. It's a poopsident. And I take a change of clothes and I have a whole like little poopsident care kit
Yeah.
that goes with me. And I recently decided that I was done having poopsidens. I told my body, we're done. We don't need to be doing this anymore. And I haven't, I mean, I've come close, but like me telling my body that I'm done with this, um, because I really do believe that you can put your mind to anything and do anything, right? I know it sounds
Mm.
outrageous, but the results I'm having with me just telling my body I'm done with it, it's mostly working. We're still, it's a work in progress, but the the mindset behind the whole thing, like I know it's definitely humiliating, and I've certainly burst into tears and cried and run out of shopping places. Um, but it has allowed me to, like, when I see somebody having a human moment, allow them the grace of having that human moment. Like, you get frustrated when you encounter somebody having an encounter like this, because it inconveniences you without taking any kind of consideration what they're going through. And I have learned more grace for others through my own issues. And I think that's a blessing. And sometimes we have to learn these things the real hard way because we're stubborn and
Yeah, it takes time and pattern recognition, right? Like, so do you notice now, like now that you've decided, like I'm going, do you pay attention to your body differently? Do you get different signals? Is your body talking to you more?
I think so because I strongly advocate for listening to your body because it is
Yeah,
always talking to you. And it
yeah,
is literally the reason I'm still standing here is because my body told me there was a problem and I eventually listened to it. And that is what saved my life because it literally had to do with DNC to find my cancer. And it was a bowling ball inside my abdomen, like, which is insane, like
yeah,
literally insane. But
yeah.
that's the reality of my story. And so listening to your body is super important, and I do think that the more you interact with that wisdom, the more your body is like, oh, you're listening, well, we're going to tell you about XYZ now too, and
Yeah.
are you aware over here we're doing this and we need some attention over here. And I do think that maybe I am training my body to re-give me the cues that I lost because of the radiation.
Sure.
Yeah, which
Oof.
I think is awesome.
I do too. Yeah. It's like there's so much healing in that. And probably, probably for a long time, maybe even like hunger cues are feeling different and stuff like that as you're healing these different parts of you. Cause it sounds like you've been on such a healing journey from this, like recognizing where it originated from, right? Or like in your mind of like even where the trauma started, right? And so it's like being able to go through this and be on the other side of it. There's so much that you healed through in your physical vessel. Incredible.
Thank you,
Absolutely
Shelby.
incredible.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
like I'm here to inspire other people to do this, right? Like at my heaviest, I was almost 400 pounds, and I
Amazing.
am right around 300 right now, and I can't
Yeah.
like I am happier than a pig in poop. Like I'm so excited about it. And I when you hear people talk about mindset and it just think skinny, like I used to be like, what the fuck does that mean? And I was walking through my kitchen and my pants just kind of touched the back of my leg in a way, and I actually heard an unlock, like there was a like a click in my
Whoa.
head, and like my mind went, I'm slender now, and I felt taller and I felt slender. And when I see myself in images and pictures, I like what I see when before I did not. So doing the hard work eventually pays off. You do it consistent and you start a lot younger than I did, um, you can avoid some of the bullshit.
Hey, look, baby steps, baby steps. And the cool thing is like, so the oldest woman that I work mostly with women, and the oldest woman that I work with is 84, and she's constantly evolving, constantly learning, constantly like I'll teach her a new stretch and she'll work on it every day and stuff. It's like it never stops the growing and evolving. And I think like it doesn't matter when you start, it's that you start, right? It's that you get on the journey.
Absolutely. So speaking of starting, where would you recommend that somebody start if they're have been avoiding or ignoring issues for however long, whatever, and they've decided that they want to improve? Where do you recommend that they start?
So here's like some basics is some movement is better than no movement, right? So finding movement that you love and that you will enjoy, right? So I've had people that I've worked with that are like, please, for the love of God, help me like working out because it's hard for all of us, right? None of us really want to do it, but when we're done, we know it's better for our mind, our body, our soul, all the things feel
Yeah.
better, right?
Yes.
So some movement is better than no movement. If I could pick like a superior movement, I would recommend strength training because muscle is a key indicator to longevity, right? So being able to move well for well into our years, for the rest of our lives, like you want muscle to be able to move those joints, right? Joint mobility is typically what hinders us from being able to feel good through the full range of motion in our shoulders, hips, back, knees, all these things. So strengthening the muscles around there, and then also like making sure we're able to maintain full mobility. So anytime I have a client on my program, I encourage them towards a strength training program, whether that's 2 days a week or even if it's 1 day a week. I'd rather you do, again, some is better than none, right? And then also like moving your body and feeling through, we were just talking about pattern recognition, right? And that is a big reason that I like strength training, is because I can see what's going on in my body on a day-to-day basis, because particularly for women, nothing is linear, right? With our cycles, we're on a constant wave. And like even post-menopause or whatever our hormones are, we still have a wave, and like our bodies are on this wave, right? So being able to see who's showing up in that next moment, where I'm carrying tension in my body. Maybe I'm going through something stressful and my neck is hurting, and it's like, oh, that's a new pain, right? I'll pay attention to that, right? And it's communicating to us, right? So like if you're holding tension in a certain place, like your body's saying something's off. So that's why I really love strength training. I do a mobility like movement pattern. I have a video on my YouTube channel. I can send it to you. And it's like head to toe check-in. So it's just like every joint head to toe, checking in, making sure everything's functioning well. It's only like 12 minutes, right? So it's like just making sure that your body is saying like we're good to go. And that's where I'd start with movement. And then as far as nutrition goes, it sounds like we were just talking with your path. It's like it's not about eliminating everything. It's not about like taking out all the things that you love. In fact, I want you to still eat those things and enjoy them in moderation, right? The idea is 80-20. So eating mostly whole foods, mostly nourishing foods. I have clients on a pretty high protein intake. Usually just on average, I have women between 100 to 150 grams of protein. And this is because, again, we're on the strength training side of things, right? We want to gain muscle and we want that tissue to thrive and to grow. And so that's the goal there. But really simplifying it, right? Single ingredient foods, foods that you know what they are, foods that you can pronounce, like that maybe came out of your own garden, if you're into that. Whatever that looks like, that's where I'd start with nutrition, is like trying to simplify and eat whole nutrient dense foods. And again, that doesn't mean you can't have the chocolate. That's my indulgent, is chocolate. That's my thing.
Right, but like dark chocolate, dark
Yeah, and even
chocolate.
sometimes not, right? So like I still like my sweets. I still enjoy food, and I'm not, if I'm at a family celebration, I'm going to have the cake, like if I'm at whatever. It's like it's okay to still have those parts of life. And just be mindful of it, right? And okay, so here's the other pattern, pattern recognition is like when you're eating these foods, especially once you've been eating fairly healthy for a period of time, when you eat these foods, they will affect your body differently, right?
Will, they will.
Yeah. Yeah.
When I was a teenager, ring dings used to be my jam. I loved those things. I had one recently and it literally tasted like plastic to me.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
gross. It was and it used to be the absolute like bee's knees, right? And
Hmm.
so once you start on a pattern and you go to eat something that you shouldn't be eating, your body knows it and is like, nope.
Yeah. Yeah, because you almost build a tolerance to it, right? Yeah, it's same thing with fast food, right? We all know that the ingredients in fast food isn't great, right? We know that it's not there for our health. And so I've had clients in the past who eliminated it from their diet and then would go back and they're like, I get a full-on migraine from that now. Like it messes me up, right? Or maybe digestional issues or whatever it is. Like,
Yes, yeah. When I eat fast food now, it can almost guarantee a poops it in. Like like I haven't been able to eat fast food since my diagnosis. Not really, right? Like occasionally some chicken nuggets from Wendy's or whatever, but not like I cannot. So when we're trying to do something quick and we have to get something, I'm like, we all know we can't stop it. at that, but maybe that bagel joint with a sandwich or something. But it's because all of it is so over processed.
Hmm.
Uh,
Yeah.
I'm hearing crazy stories about people doing experiments to see how long it takes for mold to grow on this stuff, and I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, like, okay, yeah, I don't think I want to eat that no more.
Well, and we have to remember, like, this is what's nourishing our cells. So if we're looking at like food as what it's doing for us on a cellular level, like those fats. So diet culture says cut out fat, cut out carbs, cut out meat, cut out vegetables. All these like people are telling you different things, right? But like fats are really good for our brain health, right? We need them. And our cells need fat as well. That's how our cell membranes are made out of fat, right?
When you look at history and what farmers used to eat for breakfast, like a pound of bacon and like
Yeah.
6 eggs and a loaf of toast, right? Like, and they had far less issues than we do, health issues. You kind of go like, what do you mean fat's bad for you? I mean, did you not just see Farmer Brown eat a pound of bacon? Like, that's
Yeah.
all fat, right? Like, it's not even
Yeah.
classified as meat. That is all fat, and he's not having any issues at all. So something about what you're saying is not adding up correctly, and I do think that there was a campaign of misinformation,
Oh yeah.
and I think we're still living in that, and the fact that they rename all of these harmful substances that they put in the pre-boxed nonsense so that you don't know that you're eating this carcinogenic uh foods. Like,
Yeah.
isn't the government supposed to protect us from that? Like, isn't that their job, like part of their job? And it really is very frustrating as a consumer when you look at the box and it's supposed to be like, you know,
A health food.
transparent, and
Mhm.
it's not.
Yeah, no. Yeah.
Like people who put healthy or all natural ingredients.
Yeah.
Well, I nightshade is an all natural ingredient. You don't want to be eating that, right? Like, so they can say what they want if it's not
Mhm.
regulated, and all natural isn't a regulated thing. So everybody says all natural. Well, right. Like, yeah, arsenic is all natural. Are we gonna imbibe that? Like, it there really needs to be some more uh, common sense to it. There really needs to be some more. I think we need to go in and fix a whole bunch of stuff.
Unfortunately, I don't think the system will ever be for us to win, right? Because I think so like the the pharmaceutical companies are funding the food and the food are funding the pharmaceutical companies, right? So it's like they're not going to be transparent because they want if here's my tinfoil hat, if they want to keep us sick, they don't want us to have the information. So that's why it's important for channels like you, right? Or people like me who are talking about the truth of like, hey, it's actually pretty simple. And you're right, like farmer, who is it, John?
Brown, John, whatever, right?
Brown,
Like,
God, names. Farmer Brown ate the the bacon and the eggs, and he probably had homemade toast, right, or bread that's like
right.
not doesn't have all the
Mrs.
crappy
Farmer Brown
ingredients.
was making the
Yeah.
bread in the kitchen, right? Like, and the bacon came from the pig that they had slaughtered 3 days ago, right? Like, yeah,
So this is the other thing, right? Know where you're getting your stuff from, where you're getting your food from. If you can afford to have like the organic ingredients, try to lean towards that. Especially people who have had cancer or are dealing with cancer, like your body needs as much nourishment as it can get because it's fighting a battle, right? And so it's like give your body the best chance that you can and you can afford to, right? So or if you can go to a farmer's market or know like a local butcher or anything like that,
yeah.
local eggs, all these things that helps. It all every little bit helps.
Or even a co-op, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. Like, I was gonna recommend, I mean, community gardens,
Yeah.
the 90-year-old that lives down the block that has 6,000 pounds of zucchini in the summer and is trying to give it away, right? Like,
Yeah.
there are resources if you're able to look for it, and we need
Yeah.
to be more community minded when it comes to stuff like that. So if you have a friend that is going through a whether it's cancer or some other illness,
Sure.
right? A trauma situation. You can be the friend that comes over with the basket full of vegetables and fruits, or fully prepared casserole, right? Like that they can
Yeah.
just heat it up and then eat it. And I know that it's really hard, especially when you're going through a journey like that and you're nauseous all the time and you have no appetite because of the medication that they have you on. And, you know, I know for a fact that cannabis can help in that situation, right? Like it can help with your nausea and it can help with your stimulating your appetite, but you don't have an appetite for certain things, right? Like you have to be really cognizant of balancing healthy versus what you can actually get into your body. And that is a legitimate challenge, especially when you're round 3 or 4 of chemo and you're halfway through your thing and nothing is appealing to you. So you're gonna eat peanut butter on toast because it's the only thing that you might want at the time. Right. Peanut butter is a great source of protein. So do the best that you can where you're at, right?
Yeah.
Because it's hard. It's
I'm
super
sure.
hard and it's way harder when you're sick.
Yeah. Yeah, I imagine it is. And so at that point, if I were, you know, coaching someone in those shoes, I would say eat what your body is asking for and eat what your mind is asking for, what's comfortable for you. Because, like I was saying earlier about the relationship with food, like in some ways, maybe that peanut butter toast is like that warm, comforting piece of food that makes you feel good, just makes you feel good for a second. And if you can just get a second of joy in that really hard process, like that's just as important in your healing process as it would be to eat all the healthy foods, right? Like that.
Yes, state of mind absolutely
Mm,
affects your immune system. There are
yeah.
studies that show that 5 minutes of anger decreases your immune function for like 6 hours.
Yeah.
That's a
Wow.
staggering number, right? So state of mind is important, which we'll roll right back to mindset. And I, having spent an entire year going through an extreme process, right? It was rough. It was rough as hell. Uh, so I've been there, so I'm allowed to tell you what to do, right?
Yep.
And, so you're gonna do the best that you can, and that is that. Like it really is. And you're gonna take one day at a time, and but you're going to try to be optimistic and you want to surround yourself with other people. Like, so the way that I help my clients is we start with mindset, then we go to nutrition and fitness, but we also talk about relationships and healthy boundaries because you want individuals in your group that are not giving you expiration dates or planning your funeral while you're standing in front of them. Like, I mean, come on. Like that really impacts that person. Like if you're unless they initiate the conversation and they want to talk about DNRs and they want to get their final affairs in order, that's fine. But you shouldn't be pushing them
Pushing.
for
Yeah.
that at this time. Hopefully all that stuff has been predetermined and you already have all that. I know most of us haven't done that, right? Like a lot of people are bad about that, but it's important. Like
Yeah.
set up your medical POA because you never know when a bus is going to hit you. I, having conversations with the person that you are going to put that, first of all, ask. Not everybody wants to be in that situation, right?
Sure,
Even
yeah.
if they are your spouse, they might not be able to have the spoons for it. They might not be able to have the emotional capability of handling that. And you might have somebody else that's in your circle that will wear those shoes way better. And they're not necessarily your spouse. That needs to be put into a legal document because the spouse gets first say. But if the spouse literally can't function
Yeah,
because
sure.
you're having an issue. You're gonna want that addressed, and you want that addressed before you get into a compromising situation.
Yeah, absolutely. And like having the foresight now, right, is like it's like going through what you went through. Now you know, you're like, oh yeah, everyone should have this. And maybe you had it set up beforehand. Um, yeah, yeah. And see, and like these are the things that I think probably most of your people need is like the how to put the action steps in place, how to have the conversations, how to like be in the
Yes,
pain and be honest and vulnerable because people won't hold our pain the same as like it's hard, right? People won't hold your pain the same. They might just like kind of brush it off as nothing. And it's like, no, this is like a big deal. This is a big deal. And I think, like when people are putting their own agendas out there. It's really hard. I'm sure it's very hard being in those shoes and like having that put on you.
it is. Actually, the number one question I get from caregivers, people who have somebody, whether it's a cancer survivor that they're helping or whatever, right? The biggest question that I always get is, well, I don't know what to say. I don't know how to help. I'm like, well, for every individual, that's going to be a different answer. So you have to actually have a conversation with them. You say,
Yeah.
I want to help. In what capacity do you want me to help you? And they will tell you, I'm not talking about this. We're not making this a big deal. Nobody is going to know that I'm going through this. And then you have to respect that. Or they're gonna say, oh my gosh, thank you so much. Please feed me. Like, please feed me.
Yeah.
Bring me dinner a couple times a week. That would be fantastic. I don't have the energy to grocery shop and or cook for myself. Or can you come over and watch movies with me? Or can you please put me in your car and take me so I don't look at the four walls of my house anymore and see something else, right? I
Yeah.
like there's going to be a million different responses to it because everybody is individual, and each cancer story, journey, battle, whatever terminology that individual is comfortable with. Some people prefer to call it a battle because they're going to win the war, right? And other
Mhm.
people don't even want to say things like that because then it puts them in a war mindset. So even the terminology that you talk about the illness with a survivor is important. Some people don't like the word survivor.
Mm.
Some people don't like the word patient. So and a lot of this is information that I have found just by talking on this podcast to survivors and my clients, and just communicating with them on some of them are really vehemently opposed to the word survivor. And I was like, oh,
Mm.
so I guess you don't have a cancerversary. And they're like, no. you know and it's kind of enlightening, and each different kind of cancer brings unique challenges. Like, I can
Sure.
speak really well to hormone based cancer, specifically uterine, right? And all things hysterectomy, but I can't really talk at all about breast cancer because I never had that. And, women who have amputations, because that's what that is, have a completely different viewpoint on how they feel about their body. And like, I can look at my body and not remember that I had cancer at one point because the scar from my navel to my woohoo, like, but it's so faint that I can hardly see it. And you know, other individuals have big scars or wherever, right? And it's impossible for them to look at themselves without knowing that they were there. So every story is different.
Yeah. So can I ask you a couple questions? I
Of
want to
course.
know two things. I want to know when you say survivor, what you mean by that and how you describe your clients that you work with, because this is, I think, how you self identify and then how you identify the people that you work with And then the other thing I want to know is like some of the symptoms that maybe you or your clients experience, you know, post diagnosis, whatever it is, and that maybe I can like, point in different directions of things that maybe could help as far as the physical
Sure.
body goes.
Well, you're all gonna have to say the second question again. So the first
Okay.
one
Okay.
was how do I define survivor? Um, I have determined that the day that I was diagnosed determined the day that I was a survivor because at like that's my mindset on it. The second I was
Yeah.
diagnosed, I was hit with a baseball bat to the face, right? Like that's what happened.
Mm.
And I was extremely fortunate. I had a very dear friend with me who was a former RN. She knew, she read the writing and she took me to this appointment because she knew what was going to happen. And so after the gynecologist was like, "You have cancer," her lips kept moving, and I heard absolutely womp 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 womp. There goes
Sure.
Snoopy's teacher, like you
Yeah.
know. And she was able to get the rest of the information, and we got back to her house and she sat me down on the massage table and she's like, "Listen, today is the day that you are allowed to scream at God, cry, be miserable, ask why me, but tomorrow you're getting up and we are kicking cancer's ass and there will be none of that," right? Like I would have gotten to that point
Mm.
because of the person I am, but she really kickstarted that. And so
Wow.
yeah, like um I
What
put
an
on my
angel.
war.
God.
Oh, absolutely. And now she is an angel.
Mm.
And I miss her. But yes. So putting on Wonder Woman's underwear started day one. And that's I mean, she's a badass warrior, right? Like she is the warrior to me. To me.
Yeah. Yeah.
She's my favorite, and and she's just so strong and amazing. And so that is the mindset that I come from. And I'm huge on helping people build alter egos, right? Like if you
Mm.
can't be
Ooh,
Wonder
that's
Woman,
powerful. That's
if you
good.
can't be Wonder Woman, like but you know what Wonder Woman is. You can pick the qualities of Wonder Woman. So you put on Wonder Woman's clothes until you feel like Wonder Woman. Sasha Fierce
Mm.
for Beyonce, Black Mamba for Kobe Bryant. Like it's powerful. It's powerful. So like if you need
Mm.
these qualities to pull you forward through the shit time, absolutely do it. Or even the great time, right? Like you want to be better, you want to be the best version of yourself, put on Wonder Woman's underwear or whoever is emulating the thing that you need. If you need
Sure.
grandma's stubbornness, well, walk around with her rolling pin and her apron. Like whatever it is that you need, pull that alter ego and put it on. What was the other question?
That was really cool. I love that. As far as I had a feeling that that was how you spin it. Is it's like it's a mindset. The survivor thing is like from the moment that I decide I'm a survivor, I'm a survivor, and like no matter what the battle looks like, I'm a survivor. It's I'm fighting for my life.
For me, survivor and warrior are very intertwined.
Sure. Okay. I understand that. I have my Wonder Woman type figure as well. So I can really resonate in that you're right. It is for anybody. Anything that you're doing worth doing in life, it takes effort. And it's like, yeah, put on that persona, put on that cloak and ride with it. Yeah,
And
totally.
go. Yeah.
Yeah. So my other question was, what kind of symptoms are you experiencing post
Oh,
diagnosis?
oh, okay. So we talked about the poop incidents for a little bit. Um,
We did.
for
That will never not be
me,
funny to me.
well, now it's funny to me too, right? Depression. I
Mm,
had a friend tell me, "Of course you're depressed. The thing that defines your womanhood tried to murder face you." And I spent many years reconnecting with the divine feminine. And I know that
mm,
anybody that has some sort of uh and even when I'm talking to uh men survivors and they're survivors of prostate cancer or things like that, and I'm hearing things like the radiation shrunk my penis, um and now I have an ostomy bag, or, you know, the implants that we put in after um my mastectomy uh went toxic, and I almost died, and they had to be removed, and sexual dysfunction and weird things, right? Like there's a spot um on my butt. And this, that is super sensitive, and it happened because of the radiation. And if I
Mm.
sit out a certain way, like I get this, like it's like somebody's
Jolt.
goosing me, and it's
Yeah.
it's like weird, like it's random. So there are now they're actually really looking into survivor accounts of symptoms and side effects, because more of us are actually living.
Mm.
And because if you look at the statistics, right, like the standard of care right now is surgery, radiation, and or surgery, or combination thereof, right? And it's been that way for a very long time. The dosage that they use in the chemotherapy and the radiation, they use very, very extreme doses, and the percentage of people that helps is like 0.01%, and they can use a much smaller dose. I mean, people don't people are not actually dying of cancer. They're dying of the treatment of cancer. They're dying of radiation poisoning, or the chemotherapy is killing them because it killed the immune system, or sepsis, or all these other things, right? But if you're looking at the 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 dosage that they're prescribing doesn't need to be what it is.
Mm.
And not enough people know that, right? A lot of people go to their doctor, and they're like, "You're the expert." And yes, for the most part, absolutely. They went through a lot of school, and they are extremely knowledgeable. However, you live in your body 24/7, so you're the expert of you. And if
Yes.
what
Yeah.
they're saying to you doesn't resonate as the healing plan for you, because your body knows
Mm.
if you're leaning in and it feels right. I know it sounds woo woo. I know that it does, but you know, it, you need to be in harmony with it, because that we're going back to the mindset and alignment, like mind, body, spirit. You have to buy into it. If you don't buy into it, it's
It doesn't
not going to
work.
work, because you
Yeah.
haven't bought into it. So if something about what they're saying to you makes you go, mm-mm, you need to have a conversation about that with them. And if they don't change that, go get a second or third or 15th opinion, because you need to buy into the treatment plan is going to work, because if you don't, it's not going to. I'm not
Yeah.
saying if you do, it's absolutely going to, but you have a much better shot if you are completely aligned with the plan for your healing. And you have to be an active participant. Don't just take what their word is, or do your research. There's so much information online, PubMed, like, so much information online.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely overwhelming. So it's cool that you have this type of platform where you can talk about, like, share different stories, share different experiences, share different um, commonalities and differences, and then like come up with a common solution, and also like give the tools, right? Like give someone the
Yes.
tool to know what good next steps are, to know how to communicate about what they actually want and need in those different circumstances. Because it sounds like you're like talking about a sense of loss, like a piece of you is now not with you or whatever, or maybe you have something added to your body or something's different about your physical body. So there's probably some sense of loss, there's some maybe mistrust with your body, because you're like, well, what the heck, how did you not
Yes.
like take care of me? And
Yes. Yes.
yeah.
So we might have to do a part two, because we're hitting the top of the hour. So
Okay.
um you were telling me that you have a free gift. So let's talk
I
about that for a
do.
minute.
Yeah, I would love to. Okay, I have a free resource that's called Learn to Walk because nobody taught you how. It's all about posture and alignment. It's about how to sit, stand, walk, lay down because it all impacts your joints, but it also goes through each individual joint. So if you have specific joint pain, it's an interactive PDF so you can go straight there and then it'll tell you what some common problems are, how you can remedy those, and then there's also some strength training guides and stuff in the back too. So all kinds of good stuff in that. So I'll send you over that link.
Fantastic. And I will make sure that that link is in the show notes for you so that you can access it. Shelby, I want to thank you so much for being on the program today. It
Oh,
was a fantastic conversation.
yes, Tanya, thank you for having me. That was so fun. It was really nice to tap in with you. You're deeply connected, my friend. I'm glad your community has you.
Thank you so much. And Warriors, you know what I'm going to tell you. Make your routine appointments. Go get them.
Yeah.
Until next time. Good night.